500,000 people may soon return to work after President Ramaphosa announced the reopening of more sectors of the economy, including restaurants, cinemas, casinos, hairdressers and some sports clubs now being able to resume activity. The President said these sectors represented almost 500,000 jobs before the lockdown was implemented on the 24th of March, you'll remember. However, the ban on cigarette sales remains in place. For reaction, analysis and a way forward, I'm now joined by the head of School for Economic and Business Sciences at Wits University, that's Professor Jannie Rousow, who's previously warned that South Africa is in fact on a fiscal cliff. Prof, thanks very much for your time. Always great getting your insights. So perhaps as a start, many people reacted yesterday after the President's speech that it looks like Cyril Ramaphosa has thrown in the towel. To what extent do you agree with that?
Good morning, Ayanda, and good morning to our viewers. In my view, President Ramaphosa has not thrown in the towel, but the government has now passed responsibility to South Africans to keep themselves safe. And that was, for me, the theme of President Ramaphosa's speech last night. We cannot keep the economy in lockdown forever. We need to get people back into employment, to be able to earn salaries again, to make a living for themselves again. And this is why this gradual opening of the economy is to be welcomed. I should add, however, that we don't know the dates yet, and we don't know the protocols for such opening yet. So we need to wait until government publishes those aspects before we can make a full assessment.
Yeah, in many respects, the move was expected. Many will argue inevitable. I think you're one of those. But I guess the obvious and immediate question is the timing right? We're seeing unprecedented jumps in daily COVID-19 cases. The death toll continues its grim climb. Your sentiment around the timing of all of this and whether or not we're able to place this balance between lives and livelihoods correctly?
Well, the question becomes, is the timing ever right? In other words, when do you take these steps? Because the initial expectation was that the economy would remain in lockdown for about 3 weeks. We've now been in lockdown for nearly 3 months. And at some point in time, you will do irreparable damage to your economy. And that must be prevented, as we need to get the economy growing again. We need to get people employed again. So one can argue that the timing will never be right. But the clear subtext from the President's message is South Africans are responsible for their own safety. They must wash their hands. They must adhere to social distancing, etc. The government cannot take responsibility for those issues that should be personal responsibility.
Economics 101 teaches us that, I guess, for an economy to work, supply needs to be met by demand. I wonder whether you get a sense that as we sort of ease into restaurants being able to open again, cinemas being able to operate again, that there is in fact a demand given the still widespread fear around contracting COVID-19. Has enough time, do you think, been spent considering that aspect of this entire equation?
Well, people will obviously be hesitant at first to engage socially, but I mean, some of the aspects where we see opening, like sports clubs, etc., you have no danger of people not practicing social distancing. For instance, I'm not a golfer, but on a golf course, there's ample space for social distancing. So, as I've said, people have personal responsibility and have to conduct themselves accordingly. I also want to add that the President spoke extensively on the matter of gender violence. Now, this is to be welcomed, that the President takes this matter this seriously, because it is an exceptionally serious problem in South Africa. It's clear that the government is paying attention to this matter. One thing, though, that the President could have done was to thank those men in South Africa who take care of their families, who do not abuse their families, and also pay a little respect to the responsible fathers and husbands in our country.
Okay, that's an interesting statement that you make. I mean, but don't you think that's the bare minimum that men can do? I mean, we don't often applaud a fish for swimming. Why should we applaud men for being decent people?
Yes, of course, but also thank those who are decent people and not taint all men in South Africa as being abusers or being misbehaving. But yes, indeed, Ayanda, you are quite right. That is the minimum that we expect from men in South Africa, to behave decently, to behave responsibly, to take care of their families, to take care of their loved ones. At the same time, I want to add that it is reassuring to see the President speaking to the country. In a crisis like this, President Ramaphosa should address the country more frequently. He is our leader, he is our President. We are all in this together, and we feel a need to see our President speaking to us, addressing us more frequently. Now, I can also only hope that this is the beginning of a new trend of the President speaking to us more frequently, so that we feel that he trusts us, that he treats us as grown-ups, and takes us in confidence, and he takes us with him on this difficult route that is still ahead for the country.
Interesting you say that, because at least on the level of perception, it might feel that because the President speaks to the nation more often, more is being done, which presents obvious dangers, such as the fact that it might just be smokes and mirrors. Give us a sense of whether or not, I guess, we do open ourselves up to that danger by, I guess, leaning on the President's address more than leaning on what's being done to not only flatten the curve, but I guess ensure that as many livelihoods are saved as possible.
Yes, of course, we want as many livelihoods as possible to be saved. And as I've said, we also have personal responsibility for achieving that. But we also want to have a sense that the government, the President, is caring for the people. And in speaking to us in the way that the President spoke last night, it's clear that he cares about South Africans, he cares about the country. He spoke about our responsibilities in the midst of COVID-19. He spoke out against gender violence, which is a serious problem, as I've said. But we want to get a reassurance that the President and the government cares for the people, that the government is the servant of the people, and that they position themselves as such. And the way to convey that message is through a President addressing us more frequently, so that we can keep our confidence in the leadership role of the President during this crisis.
Professor Jannie Rousow, let me thank you.